Grace and peace to you from God our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ. We're moving into John chapter 11, and in a moment I'm going to be reading the first 27 verses. I know last week I said I may stick with John, or I might go talk about something else, but I really like this story and I've been thinking about it all week, and this is a very important story that I want you guys to hear and understand. This story is important to me because it was about 3 or 4 years ago when I was studying this John's book in my Sunday school class. I read this chapter, and this chapter turned it around for me. When I read this chapter and I saw what happened in here, and I already knew what happened in here, but now I understood it. It changed it for me. It changed who Jesus was for me and how I saw him. And I'm hoping that you're going to see him differently too. So I'm going to read these verses in a moment. I'm going to be reading the first 16 verses. But what I want you to understand is this, and let's just set it up for you. Jesus is in a place, and he has friends, probably his best friends. Their names Mary, Martha, and Lazarus. They're all brother and sisters. And Mary was important to Jesus because he had healed her from demons, and she was devoted to him, and she was one of his followers. Martha was her sister. Lazarus was her brother. Together, they were very good friends with Jesus. They loved each other as friends would love each other. We're going to see them, and they're going to have to send Jesus a message that Lazarus is sick. It's going to take one day for that message to get there. You're going to see Jesus wait around 2 days. So we're going to have 3 days are going to pass by. Then Jesus is going to head back to Bethany, and that's a fourth day. And that's going to be important. I'm going to explain why that's important, that he waits around 4 days. Now you're going to hear some things in here, and you're going to wonder, why is Jesus doing what he's doing? That's going to be explained later on with the miracle. Now, speaking of miracles, so far in John, we've seen two miracles. Jesus healed a certain man who had been paralyzed for a very long time. He also healed a certain man who had been born blind. In both of those instances, he explained that those people were afflicted like they were because it was going to be for those particular moments that God's glory was going to be seen by a lot of people. And Jesus announced that. But here we're going to see Lazarus, and he is going to be afflicted in a way that is exponentially more horrific than either of these two men combined. But again, Jesus is going to proclaim that this is done so that God's glory can be shown. And you're going to see this within these first 16 verses. So here we go. I'm going to read verses 1 to 16 and then 17 to 27. Now a man named Lazarus was sick. He was from Bethany, the village of Mary and her sister Martha. This Mary, whose brother Lazarus now lay sick, was the same one who poured perfume on the Lord and wiped his feet with her hair. So the sisters sent word to Jesus, "Lord, the one you love is sick." Remember, it's taking a day that he's going to get this message. When he heard this, Jesus said, "This sickness isn't about death. No, it's for God's glory, so that God's Son may be glorified through it." Now, Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. So when he heard that Lazarus was sick, he stayed there where he was for 2 more days. We're at 3 days now. And then he said to his disciples, "Let's go back to Judea." "But Rabbi," they said, "a short while ago the Jews tried to stone you, and yet you're going back?" Jesus answered, "Are there not 12 hours in a day? Anyone who walks in the daytime will not stumble, for they see by the world's light. It is when a person walks at night that they stumble, for they have no light." After he said this, he went on to tell them, "Our friend Lazarus is dead. Our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but I am going to wake him up." His disciples replied, "Lord, if he sleeps, he will get better." Jesus had been speaking of his death, but his disciples thought that he meant natural sleep. Now, of course, when somebody's sick, they sleep it off, and hopefully they get better. That's the expectation. And that's what the disciples thought. They thought he was really asleep, and that if he was going to sleep, if he was going to get better, he had to sleep it off. So then he told them plainly, "Lazarus is dead, and for your sake I am glad I was not there, so that you may believe. Let us go to him." Imagine that. Jesus tells the disciples, "Lazarus is dead, but I'm glad I wasn't there, so for your sake." Then Thomas said to the rest of the disciples, "Let us also go, that we may die with him." So Thomas was brave enough to say, "All right, you know what? He's gonna go back and he's gonna die. Well, we're gonna go and we're gonna die with him." That was how eager Thomas was to follow Jesus. So now, verse 17. On his arrival, Jesus found that Lazarus had already been in the tomb for 4 days. Now, Bethany was less than 2 miles from Jerusalem, and many of the Jews had come to Martha and Mary to comfort them in the loss of their brother. When Martha heard that Jesus was coming, she went out to meet him, but Mary stayed at home. Now, this is important because back then in Jewish tradition, they believed that when a person died, the spirit would hang around the body for 3 days before it would leave. So what Jesus is about to do here is he's going to make sure that everybody was there who understood the tradition, would know that they can't fall back on the tradition. What he's going to do here, that's why he stayed for an extra day, for 4 days, to make sure that those 3 days pass by, so nobody can lean on them. Lord, Martha said to Jesus, "If you had been here, my brother would not have died. But I know that even now God will give you whatever you ask." So Martha's disappointed, but she also believes. She's saying, "You know what, Jesus, if you were here, he wouldn't have died. But you know what? I'm going to trust you anyway," because she had that much faith in him. Jesus said to her, "Your brother will rise again." Martha said, "I know he will rise again in the resurrection on the last day." See, Martha was thinking ahead of time, like, yeah, okay, he's going to rise again. We know this. Jesus said to her, "I am the resurrection and the life. The one who believes in me will live, even though they die. And whoever lives by believing in me will never die. Do you believe this?" "Yes, Lord," she replied. "I believe that you are the Messiah, the Son of God who has come into the world." And that's what Jesus is doing here. He's setting her up right now. He's saying, "I am the resurrection. I am the life. Whoever believes in me, whoever trusts me, will never die. Even though their body dies, they will not. They will live forever. Do you believe this? Do you believe that I am who I say I am? Do you believe that I can do this?" And Martha says, "Yes, I believe." So the question has to be, as you listen to this story, do you believe? Do you trust him? Is there something in your life that you need to see change, that you need to see improved, that hasn't gotten done yet, that you can trust him, that you can take it to him? You could take it right to Jesus and say, "I need you to take care of this. I believe you. I trust you." Because what we're going to see next week is something that Jesus does for somebody who has an affliction that is far greater than any other circumstance that we can experience short of this. So I want you to think about that, and I want you to think about, is there something in your life now that you need to trust him for, that he can take care of? He's telling you right now, "I am the resurrection, I am the life. Trust me, I will take care of this." This story and the stories in this Bible are written so that you will believe that he is the Messiah, that he is God. And that if you already believe in him, these stories, these episodes will help you, just like they helped me, to have a better relationship with him, to be able to trust him in every single aspect of your life. That is so important, that you understand that if you need help right now, he will help you. Have yourself a great week.